Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's video, we're doing our player profile and projections for their baseball cards. We are doing the MLB Top 100 list. Right now, we're at number 25, number 21. So those 5 particular players, 4 of the 5 are actually a very good conversation. So I'm excited for this episode. One of which was in the top 10 last year, who we're going to talk about. In this episode, you have me, Scott, we have Phil, and we have Jeff. Fellas, how are you?
Great.
Good?
Getting close to opening day. We're 5 weeks out, right?
By the time this comes out, it should be March, right? Is it March right now?
No, man.
We're still in February. February's a short month, but not that short.
The 28th of February is Friday. So if this comes out Sunday, it's March.
Oh, I already thought we recorded Sundays. Never mind.
Either it's March or it's almost March. All right. With that being said, number 25. You guys ready?
Ready.
Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes is number 25, the starting pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks. What is going to happen to Corbin Burnes cards this year, and what needs to happen for Corbin Burnes cards to have any movement? Surprisingly, a little bit of a setup for this one. His cards are not that expensive. When we compare him to other players, he's a pitcher, and on top of that, Corbin Burnes is a little bit older. So what do you think about Corbin Burnes? Do you think that he could become like a long-term collectible guy?
No, I don't. I think it's great for him. He signed close to his family. He's going to be with a fun team there in Arizona. But no, I'm just staying away from pitchers, especially aging pitchers. He'll be a cheap guy to collect if you like his cards. That's about all.
All I'm buying is aging pitchers. But I'm buying Hall of Fame caliber at least. But with that said, I feel similar. I feel like he's going to be the easiest one to talk about in this episode. Even if he's very good, he's never had a WAR, even with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight top 10 Cy Young finishes. He's never had a WAR over 5.3. He only has 1,051 strikeouts. He has 60 wins, 17.1 career WAR. Because that's an early path for him to have hobby collectability. His third team. I don't know. Great pitcher, though. Love to have him on my team. Maybe not the Rockies. I don't want to do that to Corbin Burnes, but you know what I mean. All right. Number 24. That was easy. This one's tougher. This one is tougher. He was not ranked last year, and some would argue, a lot of people would argue, that he is the best Jackson second-year player with Jackson Merrill. How do you feel about that, Chris? I mean, Jeff, sorry.
Well, I disagree. I prefer Churio.
I know.
I believe Churio's at 40 on this list, so MLB thinks he's the higher ranking Jackson as well. But what an amazing rookie season he had. A lot of huge clutch hits, big home runs, good defense. I think he's going to be a cornerstone that the Padres can build around. As for his cards, I think his cards are pretty high right now. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff, as we like to say, baked in already. So if we see any sort of sophomore slump from him, I think that could be detrimental for his cards. But he had a great year. He's still really young. What was his OPS plus? 127?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, very nice. For a 21-year-old, that's great. So yeah, I like his long-term potential. As far as where his card prices are now, I'm not a buyer because I think they are still overpriced, and I feel like he'll have some hiccups like most of these young players do, and you'll get a chance to buy a little bit lower. But
I do like his age. 21's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, what do you think about Jackson Merrill?
Yeah, I think he's pretty solid. Now, second-year players are going to be tough, as Jeff mentioned. You know, how is he going to follow up in that campaign? But at least you'd be buying him at cheaper than Jackson Chourio prices. Over the last few months, he's probably benefited from a little bit of growth, so maybe that split has converged a little bit. But Chourio would still be more expensive, despite basically being the same age. Chourio is deemed to have like the higher statistical ceiling, higher prospect pedigree. But, I mean, Jackson Merrill could be better. And if you look at their StatCast pages, Jackson Merrill's got more red. So expected weighted OBA, 94th percentile. Expected batting average, 97th percentile. Good defense, as you guys mentioned, I think. Arm strength, 90th percentile. Outs above average, 97th percentile. And he's fast. A lot of people expect Jackson Chourio to steal bases, but they didn't really let him, even though he's got 97th percentile sprint speed. Maybe that changes a little bit this year. The walk rate, really low for Merrill. Me and Scott hate the low walk rates. 8th percentile for walk rate, which is worse than Chourio.
You can learn that though. Walk rate is one thing you can learn. You can't learn to do a lot of this red stuff up here, but you can learn to do this.
That's true. That's true. And if anything, you can go from below average to like league average. Like Kyle Tucker has increased his walk rate, I think, in like 5 straight years. Now he's like a standout in that category. Now he's like 15% plus. So he definitely can. And what's nice is the strikeout rate, because he's probably so aggressive, isn't too bad because he's swinging early in the count. That's at 78th percentile. I'd say of all Jacksons this year, if I had to pick one for just this year out of the 3 Jacksons, so including Jackson Holiday, who will lose the least amount of money for me? It might be, I think that the play is Jackson Merrill.
That's interesting. Their Savant pages do tell a different story. Look at that. This is Merrill. This is Chourio. Overall, everything's good. And my biggest kind of beef is, yes, expected stats are great if you have great expected stats, but the stats actually have to be great. And Chourio's were great. Not saying Merrill's weren't, but sometimes you'll get caught up in like, well, it's expected batting average, and they, sometimes it doesn't tell the full story. Okay, what are you thinking, Jeff, from everything Phil said?
Oh, he makes a lot of good points. Yeah, they are about a year apart, so we'll see maybe if Chourio gets another year of growth. This goes back to what Phil had talked about before with Chourio, where he was, and not to turn this into a total Chourio discussion, but he showed a quick ability to adapt to every level that he went to and quick adjustments. And he showed that last year as well. So if you take out his first 2 months, which were pretty terrible, and a lot of teams would have gotten him sent down, if you take that out, he really became a dominant player at age 20. So I still like Chourio.
He's big in the postseason, even.
Yeah, it was a 2 home run game. So yeah, I still like him, but like Phil said, also the prices. Merrill still is cheaper than Chourio, so Merrill might be the safer bet for this year. I would agree with that.
Do we all agree Jackson Holiday's the worst bet? I don't know if I think that. Phil, you kind of hinted at that.
Jeff picked him in one of the drafts we did.
I did. Did you see him? He put on like 20 pounds of muscle. He's still baby-faced, but he's bigger. It's not as big as his dad, but I still think he's going to have a bounce back year. But of these 3, I mean, it's tough to live up to either of those 2 guys, but he can't do any worse than last year. Mark it down.
Here's what you were talking about, Jeff. Here's Jackson Chourio's April, March, and May. He was bad. Then he was like a mid to like relatively decent.
Right. Look at June on. His lowest was 137 OPS plus. He was just dominant. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So that's Jackson Merrill. Do we think, what are the odds of his cards really going up? I don't think any of us are buying Jackson Merrill cards. Not because we don't like him, but because there's a lot of Jackson Merrill cards out there. What are the odds? We're looking at his, not Bowman Chrome autograph. It's not even him on that card. But what are the odds that his Topps Chrome gold out of 50 is worth 20, 30% more this next year? Good, bad?
27%.
Yeah, I would say. I was going to say about a
good
third.
Or bad?
33%, I would say. It's I think like most people, we want to see him repeat it. So if he can have a big year, if he breaks out those first 4 months like he did last year, then I think by the end of August, you'll start to see his prices really go up even more than they are.
Okay. That's Jackson Merrill. Next up, for the Seattle Mariners, ranked number 10 is Julio Rodriguez, down to number 24. Mr. Second half, just can't figure out how to hit in the first half. Can't really figure out how to hit at home. Do we think that he is going to bounce back to who we expect him to be? What do you think, Jeff?
Yes, I think he's going to have a better season this year than he did last year. We're just a little spoiled with his first 2 seasons where he was otherworldly, but he's still young. And did they move the wall in there too? Or is that just Baltimore? I thought they were talking about messing around with the walls in Seattle.
I don't think they did. I could be wrong.
Despite his bad start, look, he still put up an over 4 WAR season, which for a 23-year-old is not that bad. So I don't think he's he's a bad buy card wise either, because he's probably the lowest he's been in a long time.
All right, Phil, what are you thinking on Julio?
Yeah, I mean, he used to be one of my favorite guys, but there are so many other guys that can do similar things to what he can do, and actually impact the ball even harder. So what? Yes, like J-Rod's everybody's pick to have like a big bounce back. He's probably a decent value right now, but I think you have to be somewhat realistic. This is a guy with an issue with swinging at pitches outside the strike zone, swinging at pitches inside the strike zone and missing. And he turns it on for brief moments at a time. So will he have a really hot month or two? Probably. Will he have an entire season that, really jumps off the page at you and screams top 3 MVP finish? I don't know. I think I'd be more willing to put my money on like Gunnar Henderson or Bobby Witt to have that like top 3 MVP finish, unfortunately. And I think we covered it, but he plays in like the worst park to hit in. So there are like some things going on there with like, what do they call it? There's like an issue with, that plus being able to like see at certain times during the day.
Batter's eye?
That's like a specific issue, I think, with Seattle.
Teoscar hated it. He couldn't hit there. Then he went to the Dodgers and the best of his career.
So right-handed
As an example.
Yeah. So look at. Are you gonna pull up Julio splits?
Oh yeah, I have it right here.
Anyways, if J-Rod does have an amazing year, it's pretty bad. Yeah, 655 OPS plus. OPS and all.
Second half was better again. Phil, you're so right. That's one thing about him, that he is really streaky. Like he could put up a month where he's hits like 10 home runs. And then just be terrible for other. Yeah, look at that. His July.
He had 2 good months really in 2024.
Yeah, so imagine if he could string something like that together. But he's got 16 career WAR at age 23, which is pretty great. A pretty great foundation for a career. So will he be an MVP? I don't know, but he looks to be able to put together a pretty nice career from here.
Already has 2 top 10 finishes by his age 23 season. Not many players can say that. Also, speaking of the Mariners batting eye, I'm pretty sure it's crooked. It's not straight. I think you can see it in the photo, which is very abnormal. And plus, so I know they've tried to do things. I don't understand why they don't just put a straight batter's eye.
Straighten it out. Yeah.
This has been an issue for a lot of players forever. So that's one reason why Mariners pitchers have such great stats. Yes, it's because they're also developed really well, but it's also because they pitch in the best ballpark ever to pitch in right now because nobody can hit there. It's just strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he does have a big bounce back season, I mean, 2022 wax that features him in Witt is probably going to go nutty because it's already catching a little bit of a bid right now, just solely based on Bobby Witt. So that's something to watch, I think. But I mean, his stats, if you look at the walk rate, it's trending downwards. I know he's young. He could turn everything on a dime and just figure it out. But when I see his at bats, he's constantly swinging and hitting the ball into the ground. He just looks lost. He can't put together good at bats. At some point, you're no longer the prospect darling of baseball. You got to put it together. You got to figure things out, have a decent approach, right? He just doesn't look like a great major league hitter right now. Even if in spurts he looks godly, that's less often than is the case. So
barrel percentage trended down the last 3 years. Barrel per plate appearance trended down. Exit velos down. What else do we have? Honestly, his expected batting average is highest he ever had, which is funny for expected batting average. But I do want to show this. One more thing about ballpark. Here's ballpark factors. Everything below 100 means that it was not hitter friendly. So Yankee Stadium was basically neutral. Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium were neutral ballparks. The Rockies, Coors Field, highest park factor. Fenway was second, then Great America Small Park. And if we go all the way down, the Mariners are not just last, guys. There's 1 or 2 number differences. They're 92 is their ballpark factor. 8% worse than league average. So it's not quite the same swing to cores in regards to helping hitters, but it's almost the same swing worse on hurting hitters. And that's pretty crazy. Maybe that's just me thinks that's pretty crazy, but interesting to see.
Yeah, so he doesn't even need to be that good, right? He gets that positive WAR adjustment. He just needs to be a little bit better than last year to put up a 6 WAR. Kind of sad, but the results don't even need to be there like other players to achieve that WAR.
Yeah, and it's been 92, 92, 92 3 years in a row. So like it just doesn't play well. I don't understand why that is. 90. Oh, it wasn't last in 2021. Last time it wasn't dead last. All right, Julio. I'm confident in Julio this year. I'm
good defense, good sprint
Julio.
speed. So he's got the tools. He's got the traits. He's got
to get
the
his
secondary
OBP up. Yeah, his OBP last year was a whopping 325. We can get that to 350, which is asking quite a bit. But if we get to 350, then his numbers are going to look great. And I think he'll figure it out. I really do. He was a 300 hitter on the road this last year. All right. Fernando Tatis Jr., number 22. What do we think of Fernando Tatis Jr.?
Speaking of a guy with all the tools and
all the
traits,
tools.
He's got them.
Ever since he got caught with the ringworm stuff, and people will say that was just a topical lotion, it wasn't really steroids. Some people will say every single person almost who's caught with steroids lies about it before they get caught. Like we saw that with Braun and other players. They didn't know, right? Either way, however you slice it, since he's come back, he hasn't been offensively Fernando Tatis Jr.
He hasn't. The biggest thing, he's just got to be on the field. It feels like he's been around forever. He's only played one season where he's played more than 130 games.
Sheesh.
So it's hard to get. He's never played over 141. So it's hard to get a real gauge. What could we get from a full season? Even that year that he led the league in home runs, I think he played 130 games and he had 42 bombs. So, I mean, that could have been an 8 WAR season easily if he had been able to stay healthy and play the whole time. So, it's nothing like offensively like he was early on. But even last year, he had a decent season. What was his OPS? 130, OPS plus 130. Still not like he was before, but if he could play 150 games, that could make a difference.
Defense was down last year. He won the Platinum Glove in 2023 with 2.3 D WAR. He moved to right field for the first time, and then this actual last year he was a negative defender, which is very interesting. Honestly, he put up 2.6 WAR. If he had the same WAR as last year, he'd probably been close to 5 to 6 WAR right now. So,
yeah, that last year, like 2024, and the reason why you liked him so much, Scott, it's like, okay, not only did he show he can switch positions, but it actually helped him. Yeah. It'll help him stay healthy, and he played at an elite level. Won the Platinum Glove. He got that, WAR boost from the amazing OAA, and all he has to do is figure out offense, which he already figured out, right? This isn't a J-Rod situation. Tatis has had more of a full season from an offensive perspective, whether it was his rookie year or the year afterwards, right? Where he shown he can tear the cover off the ball. Actually, we talked about steroids. Last year in 2024, he posted his highest ever max exit velo.
Did he?
116.7 or something like that. Yeah, or 117.6, 116.7, which is the highest of his career. So steroids, he doesn't need them to hit for power. That's what that tells me, unless it's a complete fluke. When's he going to put it all together, right?
Well, he only played 100 games, Phil. That's the problem last year.
Right.
When he was in there, he was on a per game basis. He was great.
If you gave 2023 Tatis 2024 offensive power, right, of a 130 OPS and an 833 OPS to 130 OPS plus, he would have had a 7 or 8 WAR season that year because he had 5.5. Like he has all the tools and all the potential to be the best player in baseball. Sounds dramatic. He has all the tools to do it. It's just he has to do it. Like this year, 166 is nutty for an OPS plus for a shortstop hitting 42 bombs. Like that's like A-Rod, right? So
at age 22.
Age 22.
Unfortunately, though, like an 830 OPS, a 7 WAR, he does everything right. He stays healthy, maybe even steals a few more bases, which those have really declined to. Like, what's the ceiling for him if he finishes second in MVP? Are his values going to triple? I don't think so.
No.
If he wins MVP, would his values triple? I don't think so.
No. He's got a
could
lot
see
of
him stepping
baggage.
up. I just don't know if he's a good buy based on risk reward.
He's not cheap either. He's not like the cheapest guy around either, surprisingly. Let's go look at some eBay pricing. Do you guys want to do that?
I just think with the baggage that he has with the PED stuff, there's a lot of people who won't buy him no matter what. So
I agree.
Even if his stats would seem to indicate otherwise, like Phil said, there's no way he's going to triple in price, and even doubling seems very unlikely.
Are you touching 8.5 blue Bowman chromatograph for $1,260? Like, they aren't cheap. That makes sense. You would expect these to be like $500 to $700 with the baggage, but I actually don't hate Tatis, if I'm being fully transparent with you. I just think a lot of people won't buy him no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's where my fear would be.
You know, to give viewers a reason to hate us a little bit less here, I'll make an argument for him. He's a really exciting guy to watch play. Right?
Yeah.
Did you win the postseason this last year?
It's hard to quantify that, but exactly. And that's what I was thinking. Like, he's a dynamic individual. He's good looking. He's flashy. He's fast. He's athletic. He's got a good backside, as Chris would say. He checks off a lot of those like intangibles, I would call them, whether we want to call it flash or something else. Like, he's doing a lot of those things right, I think, even if he has screwed up off the field in some areas.
Just give us a full season, though, right? I'd love to see him out there. It's good for baseball when he's out there, for sure.
Yeah.
And it could be tragic. It really could have been just ringworm. That's the hardest part about the whole situation. It'll be interesting to see how, like, let's say Tatis puts it all together. Okay. He becomes his full potential and he ends up having a 75 WAR career, wins 2 MVPs. And we obviously saw someone like Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez, who are way better than even that Tatis potential, not make the Hall of Fame. Do we think at that time in, baseball voter view that he might be able to get in still? Or do we think it'll be just consistent to what it is now? Because that is a question around long-term values. If we become more accepting of steroids, Tatis will be benefited.
For sure. But man, that's expecting a lot for him to get 2 MVPs, and with considering who else is in the league right now,
especially in the NL.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in line. I mean, if he gets a lot of respect, then guys that people know took steroids but didn't actually serve suspensions for it, right? Didn't actually get busted. Maybe it was a different time in the league. Like, there's more sympathy to that than writing on the wall is like, steroids are clearly banned. And I'm sure some viewers might disagree, but you could also make the argument that because it happened early in his career, maybe there was a lack of judgment, and then maybe he was clean for the rest of his career. So there's more credibility there for what Tatis does afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point. If he goes 15 years without getting busted again for it, I think that would help him.
There's a lot of players who get busted in the minor leagues. Logan Webb has a steroid suspension, believe it or not. Like, players like that you wouldn't know about.
No, I didn't know that.
Devin Williams, doesn't he have a steroid suspension? I'm making that one up. I might be making that one up.
Yeah, to Phil's comment about judgment, remember his motorbike incident also, which cost him a lot of games. So yeah, there was some questionable judgment calls early in his career.
I'm sure we won't have to worry about it. He'll find some other way to continue to screw up his hobby, but who knows?
Yeah.
So it wasn't Devin Williams; it was Clase who got caught with steroid suspension. I'm pretty sure.
Yet another closer who sucked during the playoffs last year.
That's him. Because I brought him up. I'm like, oh, is he like a decent guy that could somehow make it into the Hall of Fame one day? And then you were like, no, steroids. I'm like, oh,
that's right. Yeah. So you never know. That's interesting. All right. So those last one, Mr. Devers, Rafael Devers. A lot of drama in Red Sox camp around Devers and Bregman. Devers is very emphatically saying, no, I'm a third baseman. Don't move me to DH or first base. I'm a third baseman. Then Tristan Casas was like backing him up, and then the manager wasn't backing him up, and then Bregman's just out there raking. Very interesting situation. So what do you think of Devers' hobby? Jeff, I know you like Devers and have his card, so let's hear. And Bill, you're a Red Sox fan. This is a great cast ask.
Yeah, love Devers. Love the fact that he's so spirited about playing third base. Really question what was going on with the Red Sox front office, with the whole Bregman situation, that they didn't talk to Devers. Yet here's a guy that they decided to give a $300 million contract to. You think they would have talked with him. It's just a long line and a string of questionable moves by the Red Sox front office. So, a lot of drama there. I don't know how it will affect their on-field performance. I love the fact that they've got Bregman in the lineup for Devers. I feel that'll help his production. I just hope that drama doesn't drag into the season and overwhelm any offense they might have. What do you think, Phil?
This is a really tough situation because Devers, despite the contract, despite his status as like who should be the franchise player of the team, right?
Yeah.
He's never been like gifted third base forever, right? And it's clear how much he struggles at the position. Okay, maybe last year he did a little bit better for parts of the season, but he's committing more errors than somebody told me that. He's causing double the errors of Bregman basically over the last 3 years with range that's worse than Vlad Guerrero at third base. So I don't know how he measured that, but that, I could see that being potentially true. But Alex Bregman, I know he got paid to play a premium position, and he's showing that he can play it in the past for a pretty good team. He's reunited with Cora, so that's interesting. But like, I don't necessarily think that you should give like what is he now, like a 720 OPS guy, who might not be sticking around for that long. He could opt out after 1 year. Like, do you really want to piss off Devers right away? I would give Devers 1 year with that position and be like, okay, you need to show some improvement, right? If not, then we're going to have to take you off this position. And it's going to suck because either way, you're going to have players pissed off, probably multiple players in either direction. It's just it's a crappy situation. But with regards to like Devers, like I think he's a really solid player still, and I think he could still get better. So I know on this channel I've like bashed some of the things that he can't do, right? Like the reason why he's never going to be a hobby stud is because he doesn't have an amazing walk rate, and because he can't finish top 5 in MVP because of the way he contributes, because he's primarily a two-tool guy, right? Batting average, home runs. He also doesn't usually hit 300 with a 30 home run season. Like I think he's only done that once in 2019. And he kind of needs to do that because he's too limited. But I think he's an underrated player, and I think he's going to continue to post really great offensive numbers. He's very consistent, and I don't think we've seen his career best season yet. So I think overall, I think he could be a decent buy this year.
Yeah, look at those counting numbers, Phil. You're right. He's not going to be a hobby darling because he's not a war darling, but he's got 200 home runs by age 27, which is really incredible. He's going to pile up the doubles. He's going to pile up the home runs and RBIs. That's what's going to get him long-term recognition. That's what's going to get him in the Hall of Fame. It's not going to be the other things. It's not going to be multiple MVPs. It's not going to be a huge WAR number, but he's got that consistency. That
so he's
OPS
like,
plus is nice.
So is he like a Harold Baines type then?
Yeah, but way better.
I don't know.
You should pull up Harold Baines' OPS plus and his counting stats. He's probably got more home runs than Harold Baines has in his whole career already.
I mean, some of this has to do with just who else is left in baseball, because Jordan Alvarez had knee issues again. Yeah, and he's a similar mold to Devers, better because he can walk more if he's healthy, right? But he won't be. So Devers could be like that guy who's quietly the Juan Soto of the American League, a little bit, Juan Soto light.
Just piling up the numbers. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that relationship with the Red Sox. He seems pretty salty. If that leads to divorce, could he end up in New York with Soto, with the Mets? What's going to happen? I think there's a lot of intriguing possibilities for Devers and Vladdy next year, in fact.
If I had to buy one of these two players, I'm buying Jordan. Full transparency for me.
Based on stats, but I mean, dude, he had knee injuries again last year.
He just can't stay healthy. We need 150 games out of him. That's the biggest difference. He's not on the field. So per game basis, Jordan's about the best player in baseball, right?
It's
over the
so
last
interesting,
several.
but just look at this: 2,600 plate appearances versus 4,200, and can't even match WAR to a DH in Jordan.
Plays left field like.
Well, to be
35.
fair, yeah, he's getting the fielding
But
bump.
He's not. I don't think he's playing that much left field anymore. So that's going to hurt him even more going forward. Jordan also, a lot of people expected him to become the best hitter in baseball. And because of that,
pretty close. Like
On a per game basis, he's pretty close.
he was comparable to Judge for a while, and it's like, oh, he's like Judge, except he doesn't strike out as much. And then Judge continued to dominate, and then Jordan continued to miss time. And he had some inconsistency last year. He tore it up, I think, the last couple months of the season, which helped his overall numbers. But
there are a lot of people telling me that he was better than Soto going into last year again. And I said, no, I don't think so. On a per game basis, he's competitive maybe, but he's just not out there enough.
So what's more important, being a good peak player with amazing stats, or being a good longevity player with?
Well, that goes back to our Hall of Fame conversation, and with less players, especially on the pitching side, what we've talked about, but with less players reaching these big round numbers that they used to in the past, I don't know. I think there are two ways to get there. I think you can be an accumulator like Devers seems to be, but at a high level. He's not just piling up empty stats. He's doing it at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
I think that's a way to get there. Or a guy like Jordan, who his peak is great, but man, if he could just stay healthy, if he could put 5 seasons of 145 to 150 games in his hitting prime now, that'd be great.
So maybe they're both decent buys.
Here's Devers' rank for third baseman. He's dead last in defense, but like not even close.
Devers is cheaper. I just wanted to verify that. Devers is like 60 to 70% the cost of Jordan. So that goes into it. If they're the same price, yes, Jordan has a better chance at the Hall of Fame. Jordan is a better buy at the same price, in my opinion.
I have 0 cards of either player, but just from like the stats that are exciting, I get the Devers thing. I do feel like Devers has a season he's just going to go crazy, because he was hurt this last year, but like
he was starting to last year,
before he got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, could I see him having a 50 home run season? Maybe not when playing where he plays, but like I could see him having a 170 OPS plus season with 6 or 7 WAR. But he's really constrained by how terrible he is at defense. I'm assuming base running. I can't.
Yeah, but he's going to be able to hit forever. He could be Big Papi and hit for the next 15 years.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just, it's hard to like compare him to the best DH probably in baseball history and say that's his comp.
Well, I'm saying as far as how he could age, body type comp.
Yeah, I mean, it came up because I was thinking of like 2-tool players, basically, like guys that
like the best
only contribute with their bat.
Talk about Adam Dunn. Like that's more probable.
Well, I didn't want to go back 70 years.
Adam Dunn?
I'm kidding. I know that's 70 years.
But like my point is, like, I just think there's more risk, and I hope I hope he has those massive seasons. But like I actually think Adam Dunn's a really decent offensive comp. Looking at his,
but
numbers.
I don't think Devers needs to have a 50 home run season to get to the Hall of Fame. I think he can hit 500 home runs and get there.
Look at Adam Dunn, by the way. Sheesh, random.
How was Scott's Austin Riley pick faring against Rafael Devers?
I picked Austin Riley
against Devers last year.
That's right.
Don't remember that. But
so
like, look at Adam
matters.
Dunn through how old's Devers? 27.
Yeah.
900 OPS, 130. Pretty similar. But Devers does have a higher upside than Dunn from like an aging perspective.
What did Dunn end up with? 400 home runs?
462.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of too bad he fell off, because he seemed like he was about 100 his whole career, but he only played till what? He was 34?
Yeah.
That's too bad, because he could have got 500 home runs.
Would he be a Hall of Famer with his 17.9 WAR?
I don't know. It's like Dave Kingman, right?
But the thing that Devers has is he's just a better hitter than Dunn.
Yeah.
Like, right, he has better batting average. He's just a better player. But
doubles machine.
I'm only being extra cynical because you collect Devers and you're a Red Sox fan. I think Devers is great. It's just I hope he can have the peak that we know is in there. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not on my top 5 players to buy, but There's not a lot of players worth buying.
There's not.
That's the sad truth, right? That's what we're going to find out through this series as we get all the way down to number 1. At current prices, there's not a lot of great players to buy.
Okay, so if you had to buy one player, let's say you were given 10 grand, you had to buy one player's cards. You're taking Corbin Burnes, Jackson Merrill, Julio Rodriguez, Fernando Tatis Jr., or Rafael Devers. I know my answer. I'm taking Julio.
For me, it's Julio or Devers.
Hard thing with Julio, the Mariners aren't going to be that good. They're kind of just like they have the best opportunity to be a great playoff team, and they just aren't taking advantage of it. But I'm taking Julio. High upside there.
High upside at his prices. Oh man,
Devers isn't cheap.
No.
Devers is. I wonder what his gold Bowman chromatograph goes for. What are you taking?
If I had to spend $10,000 right now, yeah, I would go J-Rod too, but it could completely blow up. So I'd try to split it. Can I get Devers and J-Rod?
You can buy a lot of money with cards with Corbin Burnes for $10K.
All of them.
Yeah, every card ever made.
Yeah, I have to pick J-Rod. If it's a 1-year play, it would be J-Rod. If it's a 5-year play, it's J-Rod. If it's a 10-year play, it's J-Rod. I think. But
it's hard to go against.
If I want to minimize my losses, and if it's a 10-year play, I got to take Devers.
Well put.
So Devers PSA 9 gold Bowman chromatograph goes for $1,700. Let's compare that to Julio real quick, the one in the episode. Julio Rodriguez. Julio Rodriguez PSA 9 Bowman chromatograph last March. It's the last PSA 9 that sold was $7,900. So if that's the price difference, maybe Devers is the play, just in regards to pure. Just you can get 4 gold. Yeah, you can get 4 gold versus 1 Julio. Maybe that's the answer. Anyway.
Yeah, that's why it's not a no-brainer, especially if you go out 5 years, 10 years.
I guess
yeah. So you see what we're saying now, like Devers,
no, I always saw it. I was just being cynical on purpose.
The most likely scenario is Devers falls 10% this year, but like we buy baseball cards. Like this isn't a channel about buying stocks. Where like there's a universe of stocks to pick from where like 60% will actually go up.
Yeah. So with Devers, what was his injury last year?
Wasn't it his shoulder or elbow? Was it upper body injury?
Did he have surgery or just healed?
No, he just played through it. I don't know if he had surgery after the season. Both shoulders, it actually says. Both shoulders.
That's not good.
No.
Call him the John Carlos Stanton of the.
He came in with injuries in both of his shoulders that plagued him last year. Saturday is the first time he took BP on the field, so I thought he was fully healed. This past Saturday,
just taking BP
on the field. Yeah,
so he'll be ready for opening day then.
Yeah,
cool.
Ready for opening day, but I thought he was more healed than he appears to be. So let's go back to J-Rod for that.
Both shoulders is a scary sentence.
At least he didn't get sent back to New York like Stanton did.
Phil, do you ever have shoulder issues when you lift? What's your old man injury that you have? Mine is my knee.
Oh yeah. Knee and back. Probably a common one for a lot of the people watching.
Yeah, but if Devers has shoulder issues as a slugger, let's hope that's just hope it's not a weight issue where he put the weight on and that's what's causing it. I don't know. Baseball cards, man. Baseball cards.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, he had that grimace, right? When he swung in September. I didn't know it was both shoulders. Still swings really hard.
Swings so hard. What was his exit velocity? I've never looked into him as much as you guys.
He doesn't stand out like a Judge or Stanton or O'Neill Cruz, as I shared the graphic around the group. He's not going to post any 117s.
Yeah.
He is still top 4 percentile in average exit velocity at 93.2. His bats, his bat speed is surprisingly low at 60th percentile. I'm surprised about that one, but he must square up really well.
Yeah, when he hits it.
If you look at his splits last year too, I'm sure it's pretty pronounced come August.
Let's look at it really quick.
His home run numbers. He was on a really good pace.
He's like around 114 to 116.
Geez, you're right.
Max.
Maybe he should go play DH for real and just not get beat up at third base. I don't understand why he's being so stubborn about it. Is it just a pride thing?
Yes, it's a pride thing for sure. But there's some players who just want to be out there, and that helps them at the plate. Yeah, second half, and even do it by month, because he started out the second half well, but once August rolled around, he could not. Oh yeah, there's the months. Look at August and September. I mean, even July, he was putting up. July might have been his best month.
It's brutal when you collect someone's cards and you have a big card of a player and you just watch him suck at bat after at
Yeah, he
bat.
had 4 home runs after July. That's tough.
It's so hard
None
to
in
watch.
September.
Mm-hmm.
First half, Paul Goldschmidt this last year for me, man. That was tough to watch. And then he was actually pretty good the second half. But it's tough when you care about these players and want them to do well.
Brendan Rodgers, a lot of Rockies players.
Every Rockies player, besides like 2. And then they get signed by the Red Sox, and then they become terrible.
And then we trade him to the Dodgers.
Trevor Story. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry that was so long on Devers Talk. We'll catch you later.